Hey, this is the franchise Shane Douglas, ECW's original World Heavyweight Champion. Right now, you're watching the #1 wrestling podcast on all of Long Island, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh.
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 Monte and Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
And Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monte and the Pharaoh?
Monte and Pharaoh.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and the Pharaoh Show. And it's Monte and the Pharaoh, baby.
Watching Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a rush.
We've got the future Hall of Famers, Out Rucker, Marty Jannetty, and MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monte and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Straight to the top. We're living this life, not just dreaming it, we're doing it for real. Straight to the top. Working hard every day just to live out that tower.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am exhausted. This is Stan the Lariat Hansen.
Wow, man.
Unbelievable.
I almost went to sleep. You
Oh my God! Well, it's the meal. It's very heavy. You know what I mean? Especially this time in the morning.
So Stan, to start it off, can you tell the fans why you got into professional wrestling?
Well, my dream was to play football, but you know, I didn't. I went up a couple of years for Baltimore, back when Baltimore was Baltimore.
Colts.
And then San Diego and everything. And then after that, you know, I got cut both times. And I went into teaching for a half year, starving, making $500 a month. And I said, golly, anyway. And I met Terry Funk, you know, at West Texas State, where I went to college. And got kind of on the fringe, got to know him and everything. And he was interested in asking if I wanted to get into wrestling, and I was pursuing football at the time. So anyway, after I was teaching and realizing how am I going to raise a family and all this other stuff, you know, Terry got a hold of me again, and anyway, that he got me into the business, and the rest is history. So I really owe it to Terry Funk, you know, and the Funk family too. I went to Dallas territory, and there I met Red Bastine was the booker, and a guy named Mike Padusis from Steubenville, Ohio. He was good friends with Bruno. He saw me wrestling. He was basically retired, but he lived in Dallas, and he saw me, and I guess he went and talked to Bruno, and Bruno gave me a call and everything, and then I guess he talked to Vince, and that's how I got into New York.
Bruno gives you a call. Did you know Bruno before this? Did you ever meet him?
No,
so,
it was all done through Mike Padusis.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I talked to Bruno first, and then we talked on the phone, and evidently he must have called Vince and put the word in.
Did this blow your mind a little bit? I mean, Bruno spotted you, basically.
Well, I mean, maybe I was too naive to think about that, but you know. But I mean, I had a great relationship with Bruno all the way until he passed away. You know, and we always touch base a couple times a year. He liked me, I liked him. You know, he was a class act, man. And I mean, I could talk an hour on Bruno. You know what a great guy. But yeah, so he evidently and then I worked with him and I hurt him and I broke his neck. You know, I slammed him on the back of his head and wow.
Did you get crap from that? Did a
I got a lot,
senior pissed at you like, you just destroyed my company? What are you doing?
Well, he didn't say company, but you heard Bruno. He was pissed. He came in. And I knew that I got it. Didn't get him flat or whatever. But we went on with the match. And then when he came in, and said, "You heard Bruno?" I said, "Well, what? I didn't because we went through the match." So anyway, luckily it didn't do any.
Can I ask you this though? Did you get also fall out from the locker room too? Because Bruno was their paycheck, right? Yeah. And they're all looking like you may have just cost us a lot of money.
It's exactly right. That's that happened because the way they did it. I don't know what order, but it was Ivan Koloff, and then Ernie Ladd and Billy Superstar Graham. Those were the three guys that worked with Bruno before me. And they still had other towns, other Washington, Philly, all this other stuff. When I come into the Garden, and then I heard him, so they're out. I mean, they don't get to work with Bruno in those towns. It cost them a lot of money, and there was some underlying, heat, but it was very professional.
Can you share any of those?
Ernie Ladd was class guy. I mean, he gave me some great advice and. To this day, I took it, and Superstar Billy Graham and Ivan Koloff, I got to know Ivan really good later too, and but anyway, it happens. I mean, it happens. I mean, people get hurt in wrestling, and people get killed and die in wrestling, and it's the word fate just always I can't handle.
Stan, did that affect the way you worked afterwards? Like, were you now like really nervous that you might hurt somebody else and kind of pulled back?
Yeah, did it change
affect your character?
No, I probably went out and went the other way.
Wow.
But people get hurt. I mean, I got my knees tore up. I've had 15 surgeries. So don't It happens, and it happened with Bruno, and that was a bad deal, and I felt really bad about it. But Bruno was class act. Don't worry about it. Just protect yourself. Protect myself. So.
You were a natural heel. Did you ever want to play a face, or were you very?
Well, I was. I turned country. Redneck guy, in Georgia there for against Ole and Pharaoh and everything, and had a good run. But I felt real natural. I like being the it's Cowboys and Indians, John Wayne, movies. Growing up, I liked being the bad guy.
Describe for me Vince McMahon Sr. if you can.
Well, he was very he was first class. He was a classy dresser. He looked the part. He was the owner and everything. I used to call him, and because the other Superstar and all, Koloff, everybody, they told me how they, by not. I'm telling you this, but just in the conversation of how they handled their business with Vince. And so here I was coming in, but I was really green. And I've only been working a couple of years, 3 years, I think. And so I ended up, I'm in here as the top guy, and I want to be treated like a top guy. And so that kind of rubbed some people the wrong way because I didn't have a big old long history. These other guys had all been top guys all around, somewhere else. So, but anyway, so I would call Vince up and complain about a payoff that should have been $200, and I was getting $150. And one time he actually said, "You're calling me up in the late at night, complaining about $50. And I said, well, $50, and you multiply that times, 300, that's a lot of money to me, Vince, So, he felt, and he rightfully so, probably that I didn't appreciate or realize the opportunity, but, we're all apples. There's not apples and oranges. When you get into the ring, that's the way I see it.
Interesting.
Stan, you were talking about superstar Billy Graham. So at some point, Bob Backlund becomes heavyweight champion. You come back into the territory. Superstar Graham was not happy. Just we've had Larry Zabrisco in here. Larry thought Bob did a decent job trying to carry the company. Who could carry after Bruno. Superstar Graham clearly wasn't a big fan of Bob's, or just didn't think he had the goods.
He didn't feel he was the drawing power. Well, how did you feel about Backlund's ability to draw, especially after Bruno? Did you see a decrease in attendance? Anything that would indicate that Bob wasn't?
No, I don't. Okay. I knew Bob and Bob was in the Amarillo territory as a green boy also. And that's where I met Bob, and without a doubt, he's probably the best athlete that I ever saw in wrestling. I wear glasses. I need glasses, but when I take my glasses off,
nothing there.
Vision stops here. There's people out there, but there's no eye contact. I can't tell. That's a reputation in Louisiana. I said, "God, you're so damn brave." The guy had a big knife out, and he was just, he said, "You get out of here, I'm going to cut you." And you just jumped right out there in front of him. I said, "God, I didn't see the knife." That's pretty funny.
How about getting your first taste of Japan? How does that all come in? Because, for the folks at home who are not aware, you are, you're pretty up there in Japan. You're basically one of their, if there was a Mount Rushmore in Japan, I think he might be on it. How does this all come about?
Well, I chose Japan, and I mean, I can get into the whole story, but the Funks were booking for Baba All Japan, and Inoki was working with Vince, and Vince was sending talent to Inoki in New Japan, and so I went with the Funks sent me over there the first time for Baba, and underneath guy Bobby Jaggers and. Larry Zabisco was on that tour, and Abdullah the Butcher and Ox Baker. I can still remember and going there and I had an experience, and I came back, and then I went to New York, and Vince on the way out he booked me for New Japan for a couple of tours with Inoki's group. And, of course, I was there at Shea Stadium when Inoki fought Ali and everything. And the only place that whole thing drew was in the WWF territory. Mm-hmm. And it was because this was Bruno's return from me hurting him. And he came back. And people came to Shea Stadium to see Bruno.
That's right.
And... I had a friend, ex-wife. She was in the stands, and she said that she couldn't believe, there were people wearing, I mean, just like these fur coats, and just really dressed, really rich people, and they just sat there through the whole thing. But when Bruno came out, she said, people jumped up and people were literally crying.
Wow.
And she said, I've never ever seen anything like that. And so that, they came to see Bruno come back, because I heard him, and he was out for 2 or 3 or 4 months or something, right?
In your opinion, was Bruno the greatest of all time, or would you put Hogan above Bruno?
Well, Bruno, I think in this area, Bruno, Hogan, reached a complete, his own great level.
Stratosphere.
But I'd say that Bruno in the Northeast, during that time for sure was over as anybody. Andre was the guy that really got me over in Japan. I mean, I say that I owe it all really to Andre.
Can you share a story about Andre?
On the air?
Which one?
Yeah, on the air.
Absolutely.
Give us
that you're afraid to share.
The Stan Hansen gem Andre story, if you don't mind.
No,
it's only 40,000 fans.
He was. I mean, he was. You know, Andre was probably one of the smarter guys in the business. I mean, that's first and foremost. He knew his position and what he needed to stay involved and be. Because, you know, Andre the Giant can go over. He can only work so many 3-man squash jobs in Japan. He can't work against the Noki, you know, in a one-on-one match. You know, so he's smart. He sees me getting the push. You know, they're pushing me, and I'm getting over. And he was smart enough to say, I need an opponent. I mean, this is all my words. This is not what Andre said. This is just my assumption. But he was smart enough to say, and anyway, so they threw us in there, in tag matches or whatever, and I fought Andre. Most people, nobody fought Andre. He just beat the crap out of you and throw it. But I fought him because I was in this position and I was trying to get to this top spot because I knew that the top spot was, a great spot in Japan.
Besides, how can you be afraid of a guy you can't even see?
Yeah, well,
you were basically like
he blocked out the sun, so
you blocked out the sun.
One of the scariest sights in the world is when you're laying on the mat and Andre's standing you over like this, and he's got a foot on both sides of your chest, and he jumps up and he comes down with his. I mean, this big, and it's coming down, man. I tell you,
that is awesome.
He realized that I was stupid enough to fight him. And I just kept fighting. I wouldn't back off, and I just kept fighting him.
Nice.
And he was smart. He heard the people, and the people reacted. So anyway, he says, "Well, here's my opponent. Here's somebody I can come to Japan with and work with, and make." And we ended up. It's one of the great matches of all time in Japan. Is the match in the tennis stadium.
Oh, did you ever try to outdrink him?
What?
You couldn't. There's no point in trying. No, I didn't. I didn't ever try to outdrink him, but he outdrank me a bunch. He could drink.
That's great.
And I seen him drink. And they had like big trash cans with ice, and they had like cases of these big Kirin beers. I mean, like 2 or 3 cases by his seat on the bus. And he would drink, and then he loved Crown Royal.
Wow.
And he used to, but I going to and from, I never saw him drunk, or even the least bit out of control or anything. I mean, he could just handle it. I mean, he's 450 pounds. I mean,
I've thought about your WWE career, WWF career, and I always felt that you left there early, and there were many more years of your career. And you said earlier that you were feeling your oats, you were growing into the business. Did you cut your career short with Vince to do other things and maybe regret that a little bit? I'm just curious because there was so many more years you had after the Backlund stuff. You could have come back and maybe won the belt. Did you ever think about it? Just curious.
I mean, it's just like that. Get off on another. I never ever thought about or that I would be the champion.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I wanted to chase the champion, whatever territory it was. I didn't want to be the champion. Bruno gave me some great advice. He says, "Don't stick around and let everybody beat you on the way out."
Good advice.
He says, "When you get finished with me,
kept that
get
value
out."
up. Yeah. So tell us about how a world title finally does wind up around your waist, and your good buddy Vern in a particular track to trail.
Well, I didn't, like I said, I was never thinking about getting the belt, and, if they wanted to use somebody as, just to give it from one baby face to another, you know, that I'm not the guy, you know, and you know, I wanted to make money, you know. I mean, golly, you get a chance to be, you know, the main event, the world champion, and at Chicago, Minneapolis, you know, Oakland. I mean, you know, God, I can make a lot of money, you know. And I never made no money. They promoted me against, you know, a bunch of job guys. You know, 5 months into it, I'm the champion.
5 months in.
You know, or I don't know, you know, the exact date, but
Slow boat.
a number of years.
Right.
I mean, months.
Right.
And they're still giving me squash jobs. And I said, well, give me Kurt Hennig.
Right.
You know, give me. You know, I can go out and have a match and you know, tear the house down with a great baby face like that. You know, and no, you know, our forte is the television. So anyway, it you know, so here I am, and then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, they come you know, I want you to drop it to Nick. No.
Bockwinkel.
Yeah, and I respected Nick. I mean, I like Nick.
Sure.
And I have nothing negative to say about Nick, but he's Vern's guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And Vern, you know, you know. Nick told me a number of times. He said, "I told Vern, I told him, don't spring it on, don't spring something like this on Stan out of the blue. You know, he's not gonna react."
Do you regret trashing the title and running it over? And
Well,
destroying
tell
it?
the fans what happened
you know.
there for those who aren't aware. Vern wanted the belt returned. Obviously, you took it with you to Japan, correct?
Which I did.
You took the belt with you to Japan.
I was going to Japan.
Good for you. Okay.
I was going to Japan.
So he wants it back in the mail.
champion.
Is that the story? He wants the belt back in the mail, and you decide to tell us what you did.
Well,
there.
I mean, they sent some kind of nasty legal letter saying that they own the belt. And,
really now?
And they did. And I mean, you know, in the back of my mind, I knew that I couldn't just keep on with the belt.
Okay.
But anyway, when it came, you know, it was damaged when it got back to them.
Might have had a few mud tracks on it.
Did Vern call you and be like, was it?
No,
angry?
I never talked to Vern. Actually, it was Jerry Blackwell stopped me. We just happened to be on 285 Circle of Atlanta, and we pulled up beside each other. I had no idea he was there. He had no idea I was there. I was there with my family, and we pulled over to the side of the road, and you know, he said, you know, Vern wants the belt back and all this stuff and everything. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know about giving him back, Jerry. You know, I don't know. And so after that, it wasn't long after that when the big letter came and everything. So anyway, I sent it back, and it was theirs.
Yeah.
And you know what? They had already made a new one.
Right.
They had already made a new one that they had already gave it.
Trickery.
They had already gave it to Nick. You know, the new belt, not the old big old piece of belt that you know that it was, you know, made in some prison or something.
It was pretty gaudy.
I mean, it was this big.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
it was pretty big.
Basically, it was made at some prison in the thing. That's what I heard.
I heard you might have a Subway story most recently. Could you share that with the
Well,
fans?
I don't know about recently, but back in '76, I'm coming in from New Haven. I lived in New Haven. I was driving the subway in to do some kind of interview, and I got my cowboy hat and bleached blonde hair. I'm sitting in the thing on the subway. The train's going coming into New York, and I see this old guy with the little, you know, goatee and nice, dressed to the, you know, really nice suit and everything, and he has a cane, and he's sitting there and he's looking at me, and I go, you know, you can always tell when somebody's looking, you know, you make eye contact and they're looking, so you know. So I'm saying, oh yeah, okay, this guy's recognized me or whatever and everything. So he stops. I'm still on the train. He gets up and he takes a step towards the door, you know, and he turns back and he's got this little cane, and he goes, bam! Man, he hit me hard, you know, with the cane. You son of a bitch! You broke a Bruno's neck. And he hit me about 3 times, you know, with this cane. And I'm going, hey, I mean, the guy's 80 years old. You know, I mean, he's an old man. You know,
that's great.
And all these people are looking at him. He said, "God, what did he do to him?
What did you
And
do?"
then he got off the train, and that was it.
But you did nothing to him. You did it to Bruno.
Right. Again, thank you for gracing us with your appearance here on our little radio show here, our broadcast. And
the bad thing is, you get an old man to start talking, you can't get him to shut up.
man, I loved every minute of it.